Okay, I guess we can go ahead and get started while we wait for Tom to join us. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this December Freight Movement Task Force meeting. It has been quite a while since we've met due to some unfortunate circumstances. We had to cancel the last meeting that was scheduled. So just to get everybody familiar with who's on the line here, if we could do a quick round of introductions, and if you can just say who you are and who you represent, that would be great. And I'll start out with me. I'm Keith Kacharik. I am taking over the Freight Movement Task Force here at BMC. I'm a transportation planner and also will be doing most of the freight work here at BMC. So I'll just go down the line here with who I have on the participation list, and I'll start with Regina.
Unmute. Good morning, Regina Aris, Assistant Director for Transportation at BMC.
Kevin Clark.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Kevin Clark, Director of Planning and Environmental Services at the Maryland Aviation Administration.
Dan Blevins.
Good morning, Dan Blevins, Principal Planner with the Wilmington Area Planning Council.
Anna.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Marshall with Baltimore Metropolitan Council. I'm an environmental planner there.
Ooh, my names keep moving around on me here. John Rotz.
Yes, John Rotz, Maryland State Highway in the Motor Carrier Division. I'm the Assistant Chief.
Thank you. Cindy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Birch. I'm a safety planner at BMC.
Thank you. I have another Dan. It just says Dan on the participation list.
Hi, my name's Dan Spack. I work with Ecologics Group. We're a consultant for the Maryland Port Administration.
Thanks, Dan. Ed.
Good morning. My name is Ed Mahalski. I'm also a consultant with Ecologics Group.
Thank you. Jim Harkness.
Hi, good morning. Jim Harkness. I'm with the Maryland Transportation Authority, Office of Engineering and Construction.
JT.
Morning, Keith. Good morning, everyone. John Thomas, or JT. I'm Assistant Director for Planning and Capital Programming in the Secretary's Office at MDOT, and I lead the rail and freight team.
Thank you. Kip Snow.
Kip Snow, I'm the Director for the Transportation Distribution and Logistics Institute at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Thank you. Let's see. Kristen.
Good morning. I'm Kristen Scudder. I'm the Freight Program Manager at the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, the MPO for the Greater Philadelphia area.
Thank you. Kyle.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Kyle Leggs. I'm with the Baltimore City Department of Planning. That's what the DOP stands for. Thank you.
Jacqueline. You're muted, please. There you go.
I know upside down, but this is Jacqueline Thorne at MDOT. I also work in rail and intermodal freight with JT.
Thank you. Lewis.
Hi, I'm Lewis Campion with Maryland Motor Truck Association.
Nanette.
Good morning. Having some issues here connecting my audio on through the Zoom. So can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Excellent. So hi, Nanette Shiki. I'm with MDOT at Motor Vehicle Administration in Policy and Innovation, and coordinate the connected and automated vehicle program. Thanks.
Thank you. Nicole.
Hi there, I'm Nicole Ramsey. I'm emergency planner with BMC.
Let's see, Roxanne.
Hey, hopefully I figured it out. Roxanne McKay with the Maryland Transportation Authority, Division of Operations.
Thank you. Riedel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Riedel. I'm with the Institute for Public Administration at the University of Delaware.
Thank you. Parto.
Hi everyone, this is Parto Mazdiasny with Office of Planning at MDOT Maryland Port Administration.
Amanda Rutherford.
Good morning. This is Amanda Rutherford. I'm with the Maritime Administration, which is under the U.S. Department of Transportation. I'm the Mid-Atlantic Gateway Director, and I'm here to reach out to you and talk with you about grants. Please reach out to me after today's call. Thanks.
Young men.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Youngmin Choi. I work for State Highway Administration, Maryland, and I'm in a innovative planning and performance division. Also, I'm a transportation engineer. Thank you.
Great. Did I miss anyone? I think that's all I had on my list here. Did I miss anybody?
Hi, Deborah Price,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Baltimore County DPW&T.
I did see you join. I'm sorry. Blake, I see you're on there too now.
Hey, morning, Keith. Sorry for joining late.
And I think Angie joined us also.
Yes, thanks, Regina. Angelica Daniel from Baltimore County Department of Transportation.
Okay. So I don't see Tom yet on here. If he joins us, we can come back to him and he can give his thoughts on where we stand. Generally, he gives an opening statement and then leads us into our agenda items.
Keith, sorry to interrupt, but Tom has joined the meeting.
Oh, Tom has joined. Thank you. There you go.
Sorry about that. It was one of those situations of I was pulled into a apparently urgent meeting from our CEO. So apologies about that.
No problem. I'm glad you can make it. So we just did a quick round of introductions, Tom, and I was getting ready to do the bios for the presenters. I don't know if you want to do that or if you have some opening statements before we get into the actual agenda items.
Keith, why don't I have you do the bios, just because I don't have those pulled up exactly yet on my computer, but I do think that it deserves to be said at the outset that, of course, this meeting is truly not the same with Bala to facilitate, let alone the fact that I was able to join late this morning. Bala always kept things on track, and I think that he was a real steward of this group. But I hope that as we continue to go forward into the spirit of the forum and how he brought this group together, that we would all just continue to put our best foot forward in advancing the freight interests and really the desire to see goods movement for the better, both in terms of efficiency, in terms of how it impacts quality of life and other measures. But I'm enthused by this group continuing to come together, and I hope that we'd live into that. But I know that we all miss Bala's leadership in that regard. But Keith, you want to kick things off with the bios? That would be awesome.
Yeah, let's do a quick approval of the meeting minutes from the June meeting. I think just about everybody on the distribution list here received the minutes. Does anybody have any comments? So hearing none, I guess the meeting minutes from the previous meeting are approved. So yeah, we have three excellent speakers lined up for today. Kevin Clark is going to kick things off. Kevin is from with the Maryland Aviation Administration, who owns and operates the BWI, Thurgood Marshall, and Martin State Airport. Kevin is the Director of Planning and Environmental Services and works to ensure the safest, most efficient, user-friendly, and fiscally responsible facilities for all customers of the Maryland aviation system. Kevin comes to the administration after 20 years of strategic and capital program consulting for numerous small and large airports, both domestic and abroad. So thank you, Kevin, for joining us. I'll do each of the bios as we get to the presentation. So we'll go ahead and let Kevin just go ahead and kick off his presentation.
Very cool. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. See, I think you have to kill the other one first, and then I can share. And let's see if this pops up. Come on. Come on. Let me see if you, let me know when you see that.
We got you.
All right. Brilliant. So I'll be kind of quick today. I love talking about airports, so this is fun. I'm going to give you a little context about BWI Marshall, talk about air cargo, and I'm really taking a look at this from an airport facility planning perspective. You know, what we as the owners of the airport deal with on kind of like a daily basis, you know, strategically to accommodate air cargo. So the first is a little bit about Maryland Aviation Administration. You know, we're here to foster the vitality of aviation statewide. And so even though we're located in Anne Arundel County, you know, our services in that really support the entire state. To give you an idea of that, we have about an $11.3 billion economic impact. These are our updated numbers from fiscal year 23. And so passenger, you know, travel and air cargo is all baked into this. And this trickles down to, you know, 107,000 local jobs supported and state and local taxes and everything, but $11.3 billion impact from the airport. So we carry about 25 million annual passengers. Prior to COVID, we were at 27 million annual passengers. That keeps us in the 23rd, 24th busiest airport in the United States out of about 530 commercial service airports. So we're number 24. Obviously, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, those guys are on the top. 279 daily flights, 87 direct destinations, and obviously Southwest is our largest carrier by about 70% of our market share. So that's general about our airport. This is where all we go, international to London, South America, the islands, and then direct service out to the West Coast also. So into air cargo. What makes air cargo attractive? The cargo operators and the shippers really have to think about, location, location, location. How convenient are we? What type of airfield we have? How can we get in there in good weather and bad weather? What is the intermodal connectivity? What is the local logistics network? Really it kind of comes down to this whole easy come, easy go. And that is one of our mantras here at BWI for passengers and everybody: easy come, easy go. Things that travel by air tend to be low weight and high value, right? Pharmaceuticals, BWI region, pharmaceuticals, COVID era, a lot went out. Personal protective gear, that kind of stuff. Healthcare industry, medical equipment, electronics, perishables, refrigerated goods, things like that. Emergency response equipment, so when people have to mobilize and get overseas for a mass event or something like that, the airport, supports that cargo out of there. So this is the kind of the decision-making process. That's why you really don't see a whole lot of train to plane connectivity in terms of intermodalism, because the stuff that goes on trains, big and heavy, hard to carry by airplanes, tends to be more cost effective to do it by train. So lightweight, high value stuff. The trend-wise, things have changed here in the United States over the last couple decades. And it used to be that the passenger planes carried about as much cargo in terms of freight and things like that, that the integrators, the all cargo carriers carried. But that has changed, mostly because you can see this red line here dropping off. This is what the passenger airlines carry in their belly, has really gone down. And a lot of that is nobody's using paper mail anymore. Nobody's doing live checks anymore. And e-commerce has really taken over. So, you know, a lot of those changes with the airlines and the demand for shipping those lightweight goods. And also, we're not flying as many wide body aircraft. So there's not as much volume of space in the airplanes to carry cargo. So the airlines really started focusing on passengers, let FedEx, UPS, DHL, all those guys take on the cargo. So that's been a change for us. And over time, this affects the way we build our facilities. You know, are we accommodating cargo airlines and passenger airlines? They have different needs. So airports that were built 40, 50 years ago, you know, it's a different market now for them. So that's something we have to look at. The types of cargo, we can accommodate most everything at BWI. The FedExes and UPS, or the integrators, integrating from trucks to planes to shipping it out. Heavy air freight, international, domestic, you know, large aircraft. Amazon, we all know about Amazon and the next day. Belly cargo, this is the passenger airlines filling up the space under their bellies. International freight, the small feeders like FedEx flying in from Hagerstown, meeting up with our big carriers here, then going out to their hub in the Midwest. And neat to BWI is live cargo. So the Preakness, when all the horses come in, they come here to BWI. A lot of valuable cargo. We have special ramps to load them in and out of the airplanes. So live cargo is kind of a specialty. Lots of different cargo airlines that are flying here. Just a quick list of them that you can see. And then these are our facilities. We basically have two cargo areas at BWI. So the BWI campus is about 3,600 acres of property. Compared to Dulles, Dulles has about 12,000 acres of property. They're about 4 times the physical size of us, plus they have more runways. But we have 3 runways. These are the 2 that are commercial service capable. The smaller runway over here is for smaller turboprop corporate or commercial aircraft and all of our general aviation aircraft, private owners, business jets, things like that. So we have a north cargo area and a midfield cargo area. Altogether, about 400,000 square feet of cargo space. We do have a foreign trade zone. We have customs and you know, ramp parking for about 17 cargo aircraft. That midfield cargo, kind of a success story here, is Amazon. Remember how we said easy come, easy go. The carriers also look for flexibility and ease of development. So long time ago, the planners here, you know, identified that midfield area. Hey, this is our future cargo area for expansion. The stuff wasn't built. We had a little cargo facility out here, a 60,000 square foot facility, a little connector taxiway. And it kind of set, you know, puddling along for several years, but we always had visions that we could expand out here. And we did the environmental planning on it too. We got National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, environmental approval. So when Amazon came knocking to our doors and said, this was right around 2018, they go, we want a big facility and we want to have this open for the 2019 Christmas rush. Because we had done that pre-planning, we were able to stand this whole thing up in just under a year. So it was very fast paced. It's about 200,000 square foot of sorting facility. And out of their 35 or so Amazon facilities in the world, we fast became the top 5 busiest for Amazon. So they fly kind of throughout the day. Historically, cargo aircraft would fly in the morning and fly at night, and you wouldn't see them during the day. With the just-in-time or 2-day delivery kind of stuff, their model was they fly in 3 or 4 flights a day throughout the day. So cargo activity has changed a little bit. Passenger activity also travels late into the night. If you've ever traveled from the West Coast to BWI, you might be getting in at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So kind of the roles of how an airport operates are a little bit different now. So this was really a success story for us. In terms of air cargo in the United States, these are the top 20 airports for air cargo. And you can see Memphis, Anchorage, Louisville. These are all hubs, like FedEx hubs, or it's an international gateway, or it's a UPS hub. Cincinnati is the big Amazon DHL hub. BWI is actually number 26 on the list. And for comparison, Dulles, with all of that property, actually carries less cargo. And what you'll see here in a second is most of their cargo was international belly cargo. That's where their market was really strong. When you narrow down into the region, the East Coast, we carry more than Dulles. Philadelphia is probably twice as big as us. So this is kind of the big cargo airport on the East Coast. And National Airport, you guys have all traveled out of National or been there, they just don't have the room. That is a business traveler market. So that's kind of the setting for what our market that we're dealing with. Going back to the BWI airport, the picture on the right is the original 1947 plan. They opened with 3 runways. There was always plans for additional runways. The additional runways would provide capacity. And I just love this picture. This is what it looked like around here in 1950. A lot of development has happened because of the airport right around us in Anne Arundel and Howard County. This is our current airport layout plan, or kind of our vision of the future. This is the North Cargo area up in here right now. This is the midfield area, which has been built out, kind of per our planning. One of the things now, as cargo grows and passengers grow, where do we expand the terminal? So here's our terminal, all the gates. The logical place to expand is up here into the north, where our North Cargo is. That means that we have to move them. This picture shows the cargo kind of being reconfigured out here, which requires some road relocations, realignments, stuff like that, or moving that originally as planned down to the midfield. But now that Amazon's at the midfield, where could it go? The only open space we have left is this big southwest quadrant down here. Now, we've always identified this as future development area. Now that we have this growth and we're starting to relook at this plan, how do we look in the future is, well, does Amazon grow and expand down here? And these guys, UPS and FedEx, backfill over here. This cargo area becomes available for belly cargo. The idea about building belly cargo facilities next to your passenger terminal is that way you don't have to move the packages that far. If they had to drag the packages all the way down here, it would not be cost effective. So now we look at all cargo carriers in the midfield and how do we develop this south area here. We're also looking at things that if the international market for air cargo expands, if it becomes ripe and we want to get to South America or Asia, we would probably need a runway extension. Longer runways, bigger aircraft, more payload, actually. So these are some planning factors that we've got on there. We're also for capacity for either cargo or passenger airlines, everybody. Does an additional runway at some point in the future make sense? If this were a cargo area, maybe this becomes a cargo runway. Expensive ventures, but we have the planning in place to see if it works. So that's kind of a look at what the future of BWI could be and where cargo would fit in. To develop out that southwest quadrant, here's a concept of what it could look like. There's probably 1.5 million square feet of building space available, probably about 17, 18 more aircraft parking positions, service facilities, fueling, stuff like that. And then, room could be made for other airport facilities. If this doesn't go cargo, it could also be repurposed for commercial development, solar farms, all sorts of uses. But this is kind of a concept for a max build out of the area, what that area could carry if it was cargo or mixed use. It could be half cargo, half something else. So that's the planning that we're kind of looking at now. How do we use that facility area? And how do those cargo planes or any planes access the airfield? Remember what we were saying with the midfield, how we were in a great position to respond rapidly to Amazon's interests. Building on an airport takes a long time. When you have an idea, having to go through planning and airport layout plan approval, it's a lot of federal obligations. Because we take money from the FAA for capital development projects, they have a say over everything we do on the airport, and it has to be environmentally approved through NEPA. So to build out that south area, once we have a plan on it and the FAA approves of it, and we go through a 2-year NEPA process to get approval, then design and permitting, either by us to build on spec or by a developer to build out a cargo facility, are getting the funding of it, construction. I mean, this could be anywhere from a 5 to 10 year process. So we have to be flexible in our planning to say, okay, here's the cargo area. How do we develop that for cargo and anybody else to respond to the changing market conditions? And as a state agency, in addition to the FAA, we have, to work our environmental approvals with Department of Natural Resources, Department of the Environment. We have our Maryland Aviation Commission, which oversees our capital program. We've got the Secretary of Transportation. So some of these projects have to go into the Consolidated Transportation Plan, the CTP. A lot of the contracts for either developers or for us to build have to be approved by the Board of Public Works. And now we also have, under the new administration, the Train Commission, which is looking at major projects. And so as a state agency, there's a lot of pieces, a lot of masters we have to serve in that development process. Cautionary success story. In our development process, we don't want to overbuild, and the market can change. And this just goes to like Wilmington Air Park in Ohio. It was DHL's hub. DHL basically, went out of business. They changed their business model. So their air hub, they lost, 8,000 jobs in Wilmington. The place sat idle for 11 years before Amazon came back in and started building there and starting to reuse the facilities. And now there's, 1,100 employees. They're using a 1,900 acre, facility there. But again, building, DHL, business model changes, sets idle, market comes around. So it's, how do we build? Just a cautionary success story there. And again, Amazon just-in-time delivery kind of changed that pro forma out there. Around us, local development. Thanks to Amazon, and we see a lot more white trucks, cargo trucks coming into the airport, and all of the white delivery trucks, the last mile. So our land uses are changing. People who have been land banking and holding on for business development, commercial development, residential development, TOD development, they're changing now and putting in warehouse and logistics spaces. We, within 4 miles of the airport, Maryland Aviation Administration reviews all development proposals from the counties and approves them to make sure they're compatible with airport and uses and compatible with protecting the airspace. And so we see these development proposals. So there's a lot of storage and business parks and warehousing and logistics happening around us. It's also increasing the property value. So if we need to buy property for other airport uses, rental car facilities, staging areas, environmental mitigation, the value has started to creep up on us. We talked about access. One of the successes of BWI, close to DC, close to Baltimore. Air freight here supports the Eastern Shore, goes out to Frederick and stuff like that, and all the highway networks supporting it. But when you zoom in closer, if you've traveled 95 recently between Washington and Baltimore, it's a lot more heavy truck traffic. And at the airport, we have pretty much one main entrance on 195. So now we're mixing a lot more truck traffic with our passenger traffic. So improving the road network around the airport, providing better interchanges to 97 and ultimately maybe out to the BW Parkway is important for us. On State Highways plans, there's always been this Hanover Road extension out to the BW Parkway with a new interchange. If this comes to fruition, it would help segregate, all of the cargo traffic here away from passenger traffic coming into the terminal area, and major employer Northrop Grumman out here would also have access. So from our local roadway planning, working with our partners SHA, this is kind of an important piece of the puzzle for BWI Airport. Let's see what else we got. Growing concern. Remember how I mentioned early on that cargo operators used to work in the morning and at night. And so people in the community would always hear those guys because, they're still in bed or they're just getting up or just going to bed, and the cargo planes would be flying. Cargo planes are typically a little bigger, a little heavier, a little noisier. That dynamic has changed. So airport noise throughout the country is a huge community engagement, social health, quality of life issue that the rules are changing. Airports are getting sued. We're putting a lot of effort into working with the communities and airlines and the FAA on how we can minimize or mitigate, that noise impact. So the 65 DNL contour, which you see here, you can kind of see how far it expands. And anytime you talk about bringing in more air cargo or airport growth, it always raises an eye with the communities about, well, how does that affect the noise? So growing sensitivity that, nationwide, worldwide, everybody is dealing with that runs and owns an airport. So a concern, but again, it's cargo and passengers. Public perception is cargo airplanes are noisier and heavier and are always morning and night. And that is changing. When you get right down to the airfield itself, we have design standards. The bigger the plane, the bigger the wingspan, the bigger the length, design standards have to change. We have to build taxiways, runways, safety areas larger. So for us, what does that market look like? What does DHL, FedEx, Prime Air, these guys, what kind of planes are they flying? How often do they plan on flying them here? And how can we accommodate them? If the outlook in 5 to 10 or 20 years is that everybody's going to be flying this next bigger aircraft, we may have to start planning our ground facilities to accommodate the wider wingspans in areas or certain areas. So, it kind of goes down to what types of planes they are flying. And Amazon just started buying the bigger A330s here. So that's a wide body aircraft. They're flying them into Cincinnati airport. Will they come here? We don't know. At this point, maybe not. Did we lose me? Can you still hear me?
You're still here.
Okay, wow, my screen just blacked out on me. So some concerns there from a planning perspective. And we work with industry, our carriers, to inform the policymakers, both at the state level and on the Hill, to what air cargo means to the region, to the state. And this just happens to be the Air Freight Forwarders Association got a bunch of Hill staffers to come out and see the facilities, and they learned about what belly cargo is, what the freight forwarders are. They saw a very similar presentation to this. So we're educating the incoming administration about what air cargo means to the state. And that's kind of that's what we deal with, what we have to look at from an airport planning perspective. And that is, I don't know why that slide is in there. I apologize. There we go. This last one, keep following us. We're on all the social media platforms. That's just a little note for everybody. And guys, that is all I have. And I can take a few questions if you like, whatever you like.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. That was great. We do have a question here in the chat from Nanette. Are there any plans for, oops, I lost it. Are there any plans for building in automated technology in the future? Planning concepts?
So automated technologies. Yes and no. I don't think we've explored it a whole lot yet, and our tenants and operators haven't to any great extent. One of the pushes the industry is trying to do is kind of a more integrated document licensing, traffic management kind of thing. So to make it more efficient for the trucks picking up their cargo and all that stuff, and clearing customs and things. Hasn't really taken off here yet, but it's always a possibility that may be coming. Automated technologies we're probably looking more at sustainability right now, moving to electric ground support equipment, and that versus diesel powered stuff. So, climate change, air quality, that's probably higher on our priorities right now. But, anything in that innovation standpoint, connected vehicles from a freight standpoint, absolutely. We're probably looking at that a little bit closer for passenger traffic within the terminal area and parking areas. Yeah.
Great. Anybody else with any questions?
Yes, hi, good morning. Kyle Leggs, City Planning. It's been some years since I worked in the air freight industry out at near the airport, more so on the trucking side of air freight. But I was wondering what if any expansion plans or how all this may impact either the trucking folks that may deliver the freight to the airport or the freight forwarders in terms of space and having that sort of piggyback with a lot of the freight type growth, if any.
Truck access and parking to the airport are definitely a concern, and we applaud MDOT and State Highway for looking at those corridors, and I know there's a big push on safe parking areas up and down the the East Coast. So that's definitely a help. When we try and plan out those new facilities like on the Southwest Quadrant, that staging and parking area is always, it's factored into, the space requirements. That's kind of, from the airport's perspective, just participating with our sister agencies and MDOT is kind of where we're at now.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks. Thank you again, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
So we're going to move into our next presentation on the Philly Freight Finder. Kristen Scudder is the Freight Program Manager in the Office of Freight and Clean Transportation at the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. In her role, Kristen works closely with the DVRPC member governments, local communities, and private sector industries to inform and advance transportation projects that support a safer, more efficient freight system that balances the needs of both the people and goods movement. Prior to her work at DVRPC, Kristen was a structural engineer responsible for engineering design and materials management on global infrastructure projects. Kristen has a Master of City Planning from the University of Pennsylvania and a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Southern Cal. So Kristen, the floor is all yours.
All right, thank you, Keith, for that introduction. Can you all see my screen share?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here today, and I'm excited to share a little bit about our freight work in the DVR-PC region, and specifically our freight data program. Like Keith mentioned, the DVR-PC with the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, we are the MPO for the Greater Philadelphia area. So just to put that into some quick context, we plan for a 9-county region across 2 states, 5 counties in Pennsylvania and 4 in New Jersey. So we're in the unique position of having to coordinate not only with our counties and local municipalities, but also with multiple state governments as well. To kind of give you an idea of what freight looks like in our region, we have about 320 miles of national highway freight network. We have 37 marine terminals, and we are in the top 15 import ports in the country, as well as second in refrigerated cargo. And we move around 300,000 TEUs of containers annually. We also have about 700 miles of freight rail. We have 2 Class 1 carriers, 7 short lines, service at 2 intermodal terminals, 2 auto terminals, and about a half dozen transload facilities across the region. And then lastly, we also have Philadelphia International Airport, which, as you heard just a moment ago, we also move a lot of cargo through there as well. But to get into Philly Freight Finder, Philly Freight Finder is our data portal, and it is an online interactive platform that we built a while back to share freight information about the region. And the goal was really to enhance our stakeholders' understanding of freight and to highlight the benefits and the value that it brings to our communities and our economy. So we first launched it back in 2013. For those who know Michael Rain, our former freight program manager, he was kind of the person behind this new platform, and it was funded through a strategic highway research program grant. And so as a result, because it was federally funded, not only did we create this web tool for our region, but the source code was made publicly available for any partners that wanted to copy this platform and make their own for their regions. And I'll get into that a little bit more in just a second. But ultimately, this web product was created with help from our freight task force, just like this, our goods movement task force, who assisted in identifying the data sources that we could use, what would be most helpful to share across the region, and how we could really explore and track freight metrics across the network. This screenshot right here is the homepage for the website. It initially started back in 2013 with an Explorer map that highlighted the freight network across the region, and it has grown since then. So we now have 5 main tools that are all part of this portal. In addition to the web map, we have a web story highlighting freight centers, which are one of the main planning tools that we use for freight in our region. We also have county freight profiles, highway performance indicators, and maritime performance indicators. And after I go through my presentation, I will open up the website and share that with you all, and I'll try to drop this in the chat for those that want to take a look while I'm talking. So the impetus for building this in the first place, like I mentioned, was to expand our outreach efforts. Our freight planning program has been around for decades. We've been producing printed reports for years, and we absolutely still do. But this was intended to be a new platform for putting data into the hands of others, and data that wasn't stagnant, that could be updated and present a live picture of the region. Our goal was to educate our planning partners, our regional, our county planning partners, our municipal planning partners, as well as the public. And also for this to act somewhat as an existing conditions for a regional freight plan, and share all of this data in one single location that those partners could also have access to. And the goal with the value add that we were hoping it would have is that our planning partners would have an expanded capacity for freight planning. Most of our county and municipal partners do not have anyone on staff that specializes in freight or focuses on that exclusively. So this was intended to kind of provide access for them to incorporate this into their other planning projects. It's also a centralized database for tracking performance measures. So that was a value that we also hoped to add to our county and municipal partners in its creation. So I shared the link. I'll go through a demo in just a minute, but to give you an idea of how this was built, you might kind of look at the web map tool and think, oh, we could probably build something like that in an ArcGIS online platform or a number of other web tools. However, because this was a federal grant, we wanted this to be exclusively open source code, free and accessible to anybody who wanted to use it. So we built this application 100% in-house. It also allows it to be flexible to our needs. We can tweak what we want to show and how we want to display it. And it's entirely independent of the Esri stack. So you do not have to have an ArcGIS subscription in order to utilize this tool. On the front end, it was built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we do have a web programming team that helps to support this effort. But the back-end data is all held partially on an ArcGIS server. That's where we currently hold our shape files. But everything can be stored in a PostgreSQL database. And we use Python for data intake and automation of our data updates and workflows. So it does take a little bit of this programming background. We have a support team that helps to support this, but it's also something that, you know, we on staff have tried to maintain ourselves within our division. To give you a little bit of a picture of the data sources that were pulled into this, we used a lot. We had 4 internal DVRPC data sources that we created, 4 privately purchased data sources, and then 11 publicly available data sources that built this tool. The internal data sources were things like our regional freight highway network and classification counts and truck counts from our traffic counting program. The private data sources that we purchased were things like NETS, CoStar, Transearch, as well as our maritime ship calls data for our ports. And then publicly available data that we were able to incorporate were things like USA Trade, waybill samples, NPM RDS. So a number of aspects of this tool are built on exclusively public data that's available already. We had a couple of challenges and still face quite a few with keeping this data live, up to date, and building the application in the first place. So I thought it might be helpful to share some of the considerations that we had to make along the way. First was just the practical use of the data that we wanted to incorporate. There's so much data that is available out there. But really making sure that what we were displaying is useful to our stakeholders was really key, and only using the sources that helped to display that effectively. We heavily considered the cost to acquire data. It's hard enough to get a one-time purchase of data, much less an ongoing subscription to certain sources. So trying to minimize the amount of data that was from privately purchased sources and really maximize our use of publicly available and federal data sources. Generally, the time and cost of processing, we are fortunate enough to have a dedicated freight staff that can maintain these databases. But it does take a lot of time to have someone, maintaining data, making sure the most recent version is updated. And to build this tool in the first place, we heavily rely on web team support. As the years have progressed, these data sets also continue to get larger and larger. And so not only have we had to consider, how we purchase them, but we have to consider how we've stored them. So computational requirements, how long does it actually take to process data, and to process it to display on the fly on a live web page, has been an important consideration. And then utility and availability over time. So what we really learned was that a lot of these data sources have unpredictable releases. So trying to find data that we can rely on to be released on a fairly regular schedule, that we can maintain a live and current picture of the region is important. And then our ability to update that data, fields change and you can't just replace one spreadsheet with another. It does take some trial and error. So this is a challenge that we are still facing. This tool has now been around for about 10 years in some, way, shape, or form. And if you've taken a look at the link I just shared, you'll notice that there are portions of it that are a little bit out of date at this point. So we are currently undergoing some efforts to update those data sources, but it does take a commitment in addition to all of the other planning work that is on our plate. I won't spend too much time on going into the schemas that are kind of the architecture behind these data, but I think it's important to also mention that setting up the proper database and the connections between all of these sources has also been really key for effectively displaying it on our website, providing documentation and a clear path for how everything is related allows us to show summaries of the region a lot more clearly. And then, like I mentioned earlier, these data sources can't always just be downloaded and uploaded to our web tool. We have to kind of quality control and check that a new data source has the same fields and is providing the same context of information. So we have automated some of this so that it doesn't require a single person to manually update all the time. But it's been important that we choose what is worth spending the time to automate and what really needs to have a quality control check, a manual check before we just push a live update without, having human eyes on it. So like I mentioned, part of this project was to create an open freight app that anybody can utilize. And I know that you all have taken a stab at looking at this in the past and seeing how it might be able to be a benefit to the Baltimore region. This is kind of what that page looks like, and it links to a project on GitHub that is fully available and downloadable to whoever wants to try to implement this. We have open access to the Freight app on GitHub, and we also have a separate project on GitHub for our full 5-tool platform. So they are different. We have built out since this open Freight app point, but it's been a little bit less documented for public consumption. So this portion is really what's meant for anybody to pick up and be able to use. And just to kind of highlight maybe what some of these changes have looked like, this is the first Freight Finder map. I like to call it the fruit salad map. It's got a lot of data points, a lot of icons and different colors going on. But it's been really effective at highlighting the different aspects of infrastructure that we have. But we built on that. Like I said, we have now county profiles, maritime indicators, highway performance measures, And as our data practices have evolved as an agency, we are trying to make sure that that is reflected in this tool as well. So we are currently updating our map to a more modern interface, but also a more logical interface. And I'll show you in a minute. We have added a feature so that users can now search for a particular address or location, and it will zoom in and show you all of the freight infrastructure in that area. So really hoping that this can be a tool, especially as people are doing project evaluation, or if stakeholders are looking at their town, their community, to be able to zoom in easily and get a picture of what freight looks like. So I will end my presentation there, but would like to share a quick demo of the tool itself. So let me switch to my web map. You all see my browser?
Yes.
I think, okay. So this is the home page for Philly Freight Finder. The map tool, like I showed the screenshot of earlier, currently allows you to zoom in, get some information on some of the major freight infrastructure in the region. The map that we are currently updating has a couple of extra features now, and a little bit more clarity and ease of viewing for users. But I will type in an area to show you that we now have this feature where you can zoom in. We have added traffic counts so that folks can zoom in and get a better idea of what freight traffic looks like in the area, where major freight centers are in the area, the number of employees, the number of establishments, as well as information on some of the airports in the region. This one in particular does not actually move cargo. And our rail lines, who the owner is, who the operators are, and some details on the number of tracks and clearance capacities that we have information for. So we're excited for this to launch, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, as a new addition to our tool. But I will go back to some of our other aspects of this data platform. This is a long story map. I won't scroll through all of it, but we have added this as a way to explain freight and freight planning for the region, and how we have utilized the identification of freight centers to focus planning activity and funding availability. So without going into a ton of detail, we kind of highlight the different data that were used to identify these freight centers. I will scroll quickly. It's an interactive, very mobile story map, highlighting the wages, the average wages for each of these main freight intensive sectors. And then let me scroll to the bottom. Our process for identifying where these freight centers are in the region, and details on the different typologies for these different centers. So for those who are looking to better understand what types of industrial activity are occurring, these typologies paint a little bit clearer picture of that. And then second to last, we have county profiles for each of our 9 counties. You can click on a county to get a summary of network statistics and a brief map of the infrastructure in the county. And we have also utilized trans-search data, which is similar to freight analysis framework data for those that are familiar with that BTS available data set, to be able to show at a county level some of the trade patterns, including top trading partners, other counties across the US, top commodities by volume and by value, as well as the ability to toggle between inbound shipments, outbound shipments, and different modes of transportation. So if you want to see exclusively what's being transported by truck, by rail, by water, or by air, you can get a dashboard here at the county level. We have incorporated NPM RDS probe data to display average truck speeds and travel time index for the different time buckets that are available through that tool. This allows users to search and see that data at a graphical level. And then lastly, our fifth tool is a maritime indicators tool where we have highlighted all of the major ports along the Delaware River, provided some overall annual indicators for our port system as a whole, but also the ability to get some ship call details for each of the terminals, as well as the total trade volume that is coming through all of our ports by year. So I know that was kind of a quick overview. I wanted to make sure you all could see what these different tools were, but I will pause there and say thank you so much for letting me share, and I'm happy to answer questions. And if there's an interest in, you know, kind of digging into this more locally for you all, I'd be happy to answer questions and support that as well.
Very good. Thank you, Kristen, so much. That was exactly what I was looking for. Anybody have any questions? I know I have one, but I'll let everybody else go first. If anybody else has any questions. Okay, hearing none, I'll ask mine. Is there any data that you would have liked to have included on the site, but just there's no way you could get it? Or is there any information that you would really want it to provide, but you just can't get to it, whether it's cost or whether it's private? And
so we have the challenge at the county level. So the county profiles that I showed, we were able to access a one-time data purchase that PennDOT made of TransSearch data, which is similar to that FAF commodity movement data that BTS puts out. And that data came at the county level and was really great in enabling us to display kind of that county level freight activity that is occurring. It's a fairly expensive data set and one that we have not been able to repurchase since. So we've been looking into how we can disaggregate the FAF data down to the county level, because it's not currently provided at that. It's not provided at the county level right now. Right. So that's a challenge that we faced. And I think the second that I would really love to be able to provide is more rail details. But that is challenging data to get and often business sensitive. So that's something that we get a lot of questions about as an agency. And I wish that we could provide that in this platform, but we have not. And when I say that, I mean like trains per day, more details on cargo movements. But that's not something that we currently have in this platform.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if there was any obstacles we were going to face trying to get data, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody else with any questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Kristen, and I'll be in touch with you. We already have something set up, so I'll get back to you. So for our final presentation, we have an update of the critical urban freight corridors. We have Youngmin Choi from MDOT SHA. Youngmin is a transportation engineer in the Innovative Performance and Planning Division under the Office of Planning and Preliminary Engineering. That is a mouthful. At the State Highway Administration, and he is dedicated to ensuring compliance with federal legislation in Maryland through timely updates. He maintains close collaboration with the MTOs and has taken the lead in freight planning while supporting the division's core responsibilities, including climate risk and resilience and transportation performance management. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Youngmin, and thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Kate. Good morning, everyone. My name is Youngmin Choi, Transportation Engineer in the Innovative Planning and Performance Division at SHA. And today, I'm here to briefly overview an update regarding the mileage designation of the critical urban and critical rural freight corridors under the new legislation. Okay, so first we will look at the background on the CUFCs and CRFCs implication requirement and eligible project. Then I will introduce the new updates under the IIJA. After reviewing the designation process, I will provide some CUFC, CRFC segments as examples. In 2016, the FAST Act established a national highway freight program to improve the efficient movement of freight on the National Highway Freight Network, NHFN. The NHFN subsystems are primary highway freight system, other interstate portion, CRFCs, and CUFCs. CRFCs are the roadway that are not in urban area, of course, but it serves the function of connecting to freight generators and providing access to the interstates. CUFCs are roadway in urban areas and do the same function as CRFCs. So let me explain why this corridor designation is important. The first, the critical freight corridors provide crucial connectivity to the NHFN. Second, the states can direct resources toward improved system performance and efficient freight movement. Lastly, the designation of critical freight corridor contributes to the expansion of the state NHFN. The projects located within the corridors are eligible to apply for funding through the National Highway Freight Program, and these projects include a range of potential initiatives, including PE, design, road widening, truck parking expansion, or the bridge projects. But please note, while projects within those critical corridors can access funding through the NHFN, alternative funding sources such as state or local funds can be also utilized to support these projects. Some examples of MDOT project utilizing this fund are listed here, which include truck parking technology enhancements, virtual truck weigh stations, and initiatives like autonomous vehicle implementation plan. The SHA and MPOs, including BRTB, once completed this process in 2017 under the FAST Act. During that time, Maryland CUFCs had a maximum mileage of 75 miles, and they were distributed amongst the MPOs. Considering the BRTB's status as a larger MPO, or 25-mile CUFCs was assigned, and for CRFC, a maximum mileage of 150 miles was allotted to Maryland. So under the new IIJA, the mileage cap for both the CUFC and CRFC in Maryland has been doubled, and the eligibility requirement remain the same as those outlined in the FAST Act. So now SHA and other Maryland's MPOs are working together for this expansion opportunities. So I would like to explain the designation process real quick, and this involves a group efforts among the SHA, MPOs, and the different teams within the SHA. Regarding the CUFCs, the SHA and BRTB will lead the designation process, and to help facilitate this, the SHA has developed the methodology to identify the eligible segment, utilizing the new urban area boundary published by the US Census this year. And these eligible segments can be accessed through an online dashboard we created. And we have conducted a meeting with technical staff at BRTB and other MPOs to review and select the segments. So at the end of this process, the final designation letter to FHWA will be drafted by BRTB before the other MPOs like WMAPCO. That is something we will draft within the SHA. So lastly, for the CRFCs, MDOT will lead the designation. We will work with SHA's regional planners and district staff to identify and review the segments. So this is a snapshot of our online dashboard. It provides a visual representation of both eligible and existing critical freight corridors, and it also highlights the key freight generators such as ports, intermodal facilities, or airports, distribution center, etc. Here's a more detailed version of the map. So we can extract the attribute table from the online dashboard. Then if so, the MPO staff and SHA engineers will evaluate the individual eligible segment based on their significance in freight movement. Our considerations will include the factors such as truck traffic, the portion of trucks on the road, and truck volume growth by 2040, and the presence of any project in the vicinity. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation. If you have any question, I will try to address it. But thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Young Min. Does anybody have any questions for Young Min? Does not sound like it. Well, I'd like to take a minute and thank all three of our presenters for all their great presentations. I'll give everybody one last chance to ask any of the presenters if anybody has any questions for any of the three. Now's the time to speak up. I'm hearing none. I'm going to turn it back over to Tom to close us out.
Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining today's discussion. I certainly learned a lot about future plans and what's down the pike, but I hope that you found this conversation insightful and helpful to your work. Looking forward to the next time that we can convene. And again, I just really appreciate our presenters' times and sharing today. Have a great rest of the day.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.